Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I am happy to inform you it is once again Monday. And everybody knows what that means. Yeah. It is time to talk some more football. We got some Steelers news. We got some Packers news. We're talking the AFC South division tonight. So do us a favor. Kick back. Relax. Because episode number 49 of 609 Sports Talk, it starts right now. Yes, and welcome in everyone back to another edition of 609 Sports Talk, live here on Facebook and, of course, over on YouTube. And, of course, if you guys cannot check out the show live, go check it out every Wednesday where the episodes will drop over on Spotify. So do us a favor. You already know. Hit that subscribe, hit that like, hit that follow on Spotify, because, of course, you know this is the show that unites fans and ignites debate.
There you go. You got it this week.
I got it the last 3 weeks. It was a month ago when I messed it up. Okay, bud? Don't start with me today. As always, we are your hosts, the always intelligent Sam Nelson, the always sarcastic Mr. Tyler Adams. Mr. Adams, in a serious matter, how are we doing today?
We're doing good. Celebrating another Victory Monday. No double victory this Monday. But
fair enough.
We got some interesting stuff to talk about. Can't say that I'm looking forward to the AFC South and Mr. Aaron Rodgers.
Hey, you're the one that picked that division this week. I asked you what division you want to talk about. You picked the AFC South. Don't talk to me.
We can talk about any division because at the end of the day, my team won the Super Bowl.
That is true. Real quickly, we have our first comment from our friends over at the Pitch Grid podcast over on YouTube. So, to all our friends, if you could do us that favor, go follow the Pitch Grid podcast on Facebook and over on YouTube. And I believe they're also on Spotify. They do some good NFL work over there. And for some soccer stuff, too, go check them out, guys.
Very
but
nice.
Pitch Grid, we're doing good. We're doing good tonight. We're ready to talk some NFL. So, look. Toward the end of the show, we'll talk some AFC South, is it we're doing? I can't remember. Now you got me all messed up. You got me all screwed up. So we'll be talking AFC South later on in the show. We're going to talk some Packers releasing Jaire Alexander earlier this morning. We'll get into that. Maybe some possible landing spots for the former two-time Pro Bowl cornerback. And actually, there was a team in the AFC South that did make a move today. We'll talk about that as well. We'll start our AFC South talk with that, actually. But, Tyler, finally, someone called Dwayne The Rock Johnson, because finally, the Aaron Rodgers saga, which was the worst-kept secret during the offseason, has come to an end. Aaron Rodgers is officially a Pittsburgh Steeler, signing a one-year deal last Friday to be the new starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Tyler, does Aaron Rodgers move the needle at all for the Pittsburgh Steelers to be an AFC contender? The floor is yours.
Aaron Rodgers, the butt of the NFL this offseason was which team was going to land Aaron Rodgers. I could sit here and joke all day about his dark retreats and how far someone had to go hike into the mountains to go find him to give him that contract. But instead, we can actually discuss the rather decent season that Aaron Rodgers actually had last year. A lot of people tend to say that he sucked last year, when he was probably, I would say, top 12 of all the quarterbacks. That's out of 32 NFL teams. He was better than probably half of them, well over half of them. He threw for almost 3,900 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. He was one of the only bright spots of whatever the hell happened on the New York Jets last year. We all know it was terrible. They were the laughingstock of the NFL last year. Forget the Browns. The Browns are just the Browns, all right? They had Jameis Winston. They were good. But Aaron Rodgers didn't have a bad season. And he still brings, while I don't think he has that same arm power, the same cannon as his MVP days back in Green Bay, he still brings a lot of accuracy and a lot of quick passing as well. His release is still really quick for his age. So you're getting a savvy veteran NFL quarterback who can throw the ball, who can move the chains, bringing him into an organization that isn't the New York Jets, aka not a dumpster fire. But the big question remains is that you're putting him in an offensive system that hasn't seemed to exist post Ben Roethlisberger, because they've just been retreading the same water over and over of having a really good defense and a below average offense, trying to win games 16-13. That is not how the NFL works anymore. So Pittsburgh, they got lucky. If Rodgers decided to just up and retire and not even sign with them, I mean, the Steelers are screwed. Who do they got on their roster? Let's see, who's on the depth chart behind him? Mason Rudolph. Yikes.
Mason Rudolph.
Rookie Will Howard. Might be the best option if Rodgers never signed. And Skylar Thompson. So, Aaron Rodgers to save the day. And he's going in with a running back tandem of Jalen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell, Caleb Johnson, who was the rookie third-round pick this year. And at wide receiver, you got whatever DK Metcalf's going to be for you. I don't know which version of DK Metcalf we're getting. Old man Robert Woods. Jeez. Who do they have at wide receiver?
DK Metcalf, and that's about it.
That's it. And then you literally just jump to Pat Freiermuth, the tight end. That's all they got. So, again, it's going to be, I don't want to say a similar situation to the New York Jets, but they're not doing him much justice with the weapons around him. I feel like his weapons that he had in New York may have been a lot better.
They were a lot better.
Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson.
Well, I think we can essentially all agree that Alan Lazard will be a Pittsburgh Steeler by opening day.
How long until the Pittsburgh Steelers trade for Devontae Adams?
Why would he want to go from the Rams that actually have a shot to the?
I know.
Why? Why would you do such a thing? Why? Just why? I need to know. I need to know the philosophy of your thinking. Why?
To piss you off.
I'm not surprised. Everything you do piss me off. But anyway. All right, so let me give my thoughts on that. Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers are a match made in heaven for each other. Why, will you ask? Because they are a dysfunctional organization offensively. They're a very good organization. They've won 6 Super Bowls. They have had one of the best runs of defenses over how many years now? However, since Ben Roethlisberger retired, that organization has not even hit on the middle tier of a quarterback. Kenny Pickett, that worked out real well. Russell Wilson was good for about a month till teams started getting tape on him.
Yeah.
Justin Fields, they actually looked decent with Justin Fields. The problem was it was never his job to begin with. He was just being a placeholder for Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
At the end of this whole thing, we just have to look at this in one way. The Pittsburgh Steelers were desperate for a quarterback, and Aaron Rodgers had one option.
Literally.
It was one thing or the other.
Maybe Cleveland.
It was either go to the Steelers or retire. Minnesota was not going to bring him in. The Giants were not going to bring him in. There were no teams that were in on Aaron Rodgers in the end, except for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I will agree with you that if you're going from what happened last year, with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, which, they did okay. Fields looked okay. Russ looked fine until the end of the season. But I absolutely agree is that Rodgers did not have a bad season last year. First of all, the Jets are the Jets. That's just going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Not
to mention his offense was being run by Nathaniel Hackett, which for some reason Aaron Rodgers loves him. I don't understand why. But the Steelers do not have an offensive system that is going to put a quarterback in a position to succeed. Justin Fields needed a system to succeed, in my opinion. Kenny Pickett, when he was there, needed a system to succeed. That clearly didn't happen. Russell Wilson, at this day and age of his career, probably needs more of a system to succeed. Do you know what quarterbacks do not need a system to succeed? Guys that have won the MVP in this league. Guys that have been some of the best passing quarterbacks we've ever seen. Tom Brady doesn't need a system. Tom Brady is the system. Drew Brees. I think Drew Brees I could put in there. He didn't need a system. He was the system. Peyton Manning, same thing. I'm not trying to put Aaron Rodgers on that tier, but the Steelers right now need a quarterback who you could just plug in there and even if he's doing his own thing, he's got a better shot than what they've been doing for the past 4+ years.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the Steelers, first of all, the Steelers are not a Super Bowl contender. Sorry, Steeler fans. I hate to break your heart, but those days are over. You're still going to be a viable team. You're going to win probably 9 games to 10 games again, and we'll see where it goes. But this is also not the Aaron Rodgers you're getting in Green Bay. I think we can safely agree with that. And I think it's an upgrade over what happened last year in Pittsburgh. I think it's an upgrade from Russ, and it's an upgrade from Fields.
Yeah.
That's not saying those two were bad. Now, if Aaron Rodgers comes out next year and he looks like how those two did, then someone in Pittsburgh's getting fired.
Well, I was going to one-up you real quick with what you were saying about that they're not going to get the Packers Aaron Rodgers. When guys get to a certain age like he is, you never know when Father Time's going to hit you. Who knows? Maybe this offseason could be the time. Maybe he doesn't look the same as he did in New York last year. Maybe he does have a fall-off year. We don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, we really don't. What's up, Georgie?
What's up, Georgie?
But yeah, I I think, again, there's really not was this the right move or not? It was really just down to the point was, did Aaron Rodgers want to play or not? That's really all this came down to. And the fact that what annoys me the most is, why did we have to drag this on for a borderline, 3 months?
Pretty much, yeah.
Why did we have to sit here and listen? Oh, well, he went to the facility. They were talking. They had a good meeting in the facility. They did this. They did that. Blah, blah, blah. Can't we just sign a contract, shut up and go and play?
Nope.
No. Now, don't get me wrong. It is Aaron Rodgers. I'll tell you now, a lot of these veterans are signing now because OTAs are over. I'm serious. These guys they'll go to mandatory minicamp. These guys hate going to OTA. I'll tell you that right now. A lot of this has to do with OTA. A lot of players don't like going to those things.
So Justin Simmons to the Eagles is still an option?
Justin Simmons to the Eagles has been an option since March, and it still isn't a thing. You got Andrew Makuba. Who cares?
I know that, but guess what? Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers has been an option since the season ended, and it just became a thing.
Okay, there's a difference. My team just won the Super Bowl. I'm not desperate for a safety. The Steelers have been desperate for a quarterback for 5 years now. That is the difference. My team has won 2 Super Bowls since 2017. One team hasn't been back to the AFC Championship game. Shit's about that time. Probably before that. Yeah, well, I can't remember. When was the last time the Steelers went to the AFC title game?
I'm trying to think. AFC title game.
I'm on it.
2012?
(2010)
Oh, it was 2010. Okay.
The year they lost to the Packers in the Super Bowl. So the Pittsburgh Steelers have not been to a AFC Championship game in 15 years.
Nice.
Now, Tyler, I guess my question to you is, where does this put the Steelers in your eyes in the AFC?
You want my honest opinion where this puts them?
Well, wait, hold on. Let's start small. Let's not go crazy. Let's start small. Does this make them better than Baltimore?
No.
I agree. What about Cincinnati?
Cincinnati is a big question mark because
after what they did today, yes, they are.
They have a lot to prove. They're two contrasting teams. One team with the clearly better defense. One team with the clearly better offense.
Mm-hmm.
One with the more, at this point, his youth, I think, transcends Aaron Rodgers talent-wise. Not comparing primes or anything, but where Aaron Rodgers is at his career, Joe Burrow's better than him. I don't know. I think they're two teams that are going to finish about the same.
Really?
Because I still don't trust Cincinnati defensively to be able to get the stops needed to win you a game. So I feel like we're still going to be back in the same thing where it's just going to be Joe Burrow and the offense has to win the game.
You know, while we're on the subject, I don't really think I think we've hit the Aaron Rodgers conversation, and we'll give our closing arguments to this in a second. We'll get back to where this puts the Steelers in the AFC in a second. Can I go on can I get a 2 minute? Can I get a rant? Can I get a rant in for 5 minutes?
No.
Thanks, sir.
You're welcome. Go ahead.
Okay. Mike Brown. No, not the NBA coach. Mike Brown, the owner of the Cincinnati Bengals. You are aware there's two sides of the football field, right? So let's go down memory lane here, okay? Let's see. Where do I start with the Bengals? Okay, well, they let Jesse Bates walk about 2 years ago. That turned out to be a terrible decision. He's still one of the best playmaking safeties in football.
Yep.
They who else did they get? They let DJ Reader walk in free agency. He's only one of the best run-stopping defensive tackles in the league.
Yep.
All right, so how can we one-up that this offseason? Okay, well, we paid Jamar Chase and needed to do that. We paid T. Higgins. I probably could have made the case you didn't need to do that. Now you're in a contract dispute with your best defensive player, Trey Hendrickson, to where you haven't even contacted him since the draft. Since the draft, Trey Hendrickson has had no conversation with the Cincinnati Bengals. So what do you do to quote-unquote help your defense? You draft a project defensive end who you are now having a contract dispute with, and he hasn't even played a down of NFL football yet, which, by the way, hate to break this to you, Bengal fans, Shamar Stewart stinks. Go watch A&M. I watched every A&M game I could. Nick Scott was the best defensive lineman on that team last year. Shamar Turner was the best interior defensive lineman on that team. Shamar Stewart couldn't even get 2 sacks last year on that defensive line, and it was loaded from day one. How do you make your defense possibly worse by contract disputing Trey Hendrickson, drafting no day one help to that defense in this year's draft? How could you possibly make this worse? Oh, wait, we somehow did it today. You released your captain, Jermaine Pratt, who is one of the most underrated linebackers in the league. You released him today.
Yeah.
Can somebody please tell me what the HE double hockey sticks, what in the world is going on in Cincinnati? They're going to need to score 55 points a game. They're going to have to score 55 points a game to win this year.
Yeah, they might.
DC should stay. Their defensive coordinator should stay in Notre Dame. What's up, Clint? How you doing?
What's up, Clint?
Perfect timing. Oh, there goes the camera.
Oh, too angry. You got to tone down the rant.
I kicked the tripod. Oh. But yeah, somebody in Cincinnati needs help.
I think a lot of people in Cincinnati need help.
Yeah, starts with their front office.
Because I don't know how. You know how baffled I was with that Shamar Stewart pick. Because for one, I didn't even want them to draft a defensive edge rusher at that spot. I wanted to see them go offensive line in the first round. And then not only did they go defensive line, okay, you take the biggest question mark in the world. Like, you hit every single point. Couldn't even generate 2 sacks on a loaded line? What the hell did they see in him? They saw him generate rushes? Oh.
No, because he moved well in shorts and a t-shirt at the combine. That's why they drafted.
Nice.
I'm not here to draft athletes. I'm here to draft good football players.
Yeah.
It's like the Eagles, and I know we always use the Eagles as an example, but again, that's our team. Oh, Andrew McCuba's too small. Andrew McCuba's a good football player.
Exactly.
I don't care about good athletes. I care about good football players. And yes, there is a difference.
Yep.
John Ross is a freak athlete. Dude couldn't catch a cold in the NFL. Oh, great. And Joe Burrow, he can blame this on himself then. You can't replace Jamar Chase. Yeah. You can 100% replace T. Higgins with cheaper options.
That is true. But let's look at the grand scheme of it, right? I'm going to ask you a question. Would the savings from not re-signing T. Higgins have been enough for them to make their defense good enough to compete.
You could have started there, and if you didn't use the money for Higgins from the defense, put some work on the O-line. The Chargers signed Mekhi Becton for $10 million a year. You could have used some of that money on that.
Yeah.
I'm just using an example. I just happen to know what Mekhi Becton's contract was, but you could have done something like that. But they didn't. They're going to throw the ball 100 times a game. Joe Burrow's going to get knocked on his rear end 14 times a quarter. They're not going to be able to stop a nosebleed with a freaking high-priced tissue, and this is how it's going to be.
Nosebleed with a high-priced tissue. I've heard it all. I love it.
Yeah. This is just ridiculous. What Cincinnati has done this offseason is ridiculous, and honestly, they won't because of Joe Burrow. They deserve to finish last. They 100% deserve to finish last in their division.
Yeah.
I have about had it with the freaking Cincinnati Bengals and their inability to field a capable defense. First of all, last year you lost to the Steelers. You allowed 41 points to that anemic offense.
Yep.
You should have been sick to your stomach from that point on. But anyway, let's backtrack back to the Steelers for 5 more minutes, then let's move on. I don't need to be sitting here talking about the Cincinnati Bengals all night. But all right, so the reason we were on the Bengals is because we were talking about the Steelers. So you believe Aaron Rodgers does not put them over the Ravens, right?
No, not even close.
I think it puts them possibly a little even with the Bengals.
That's what I think so. I think even with the Bengals, because the Steelers will win some games because of their defense. The Bengals will win their games because of their offense.
The only difference is the Steelers' offense may accidentally have a game or two where they actually play well because of Aaron Rodgers. I don't trust the Bengals' defense to have a good game at all this season.
Nope. Neither do I. Over or under on Shamar Stewart getting 1 sack?
Yes, and Clint, I agree with this. Zach Taylor will be scapegoated, but it's not his fault that the GM and the owner won't improve the other. They're not even doing Zach Taylor a solid. They're not even fixing his biggest weakness, which is his offensive line.
Yep. They're just pretty much figure it out. Make it work. That's it.
Good Lord. What are we doing over there?
Nothing smart.
But yeah, so where do you see Pittsburgh in the AFC in general?
Where do I see Pittsburgh? I see Pittsburgh finishing I can see maybe a 3rd place finish.
In their own division?
Yeah.
All right. So you don't have them competing with anybody in the AFC. You don't have them up there with they're definitely not better than Buffalo. They're not better than Kansas City.
No.
Yeah. Who else will we be looking at here?
Well, if I don't even have them finishing with a better record than the Ravens and the Bengals, that should tell you all you need to know about the whole picture of the AFC in itself. I don't even have them finishing in 2nd in their division.
Fair point.
Now, I don't think it's going to be by many games. It could be by 1 or 2 games that they finish 3rd place instead of 2nd. But I just don't see it.
No. I personally don't see it either. It'll be interesting to see how them and the Bengals, how their trajectory of their seasons go, because One team's got a really good defense and an anemic offense. One team has a dynamic offense and an anemic defense. But that's actually insulting to the word anemic. Because to have an anemic defense, you have to be able to field a defense. I don't even know if the Bengals are capable of doing that.
Yeah. That's valid.
What a joke. What an absolute joke. But any other final thoughts on the Aaron Rodgers thing? Any final thoughts on Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers?
No, I pretty much said all I needed to say about it. It doesn't make them worse, but it doesn't make them a competitor. They might make a wild card. They might. But outside of that, I don't see a deep playoff run. There really aren't many weapons around Rodgers. I mean, I don't know.
My final thoughts, it's the match made in heaven. He deserves the Steelers, and the Steelers deserve him. He had no other options, and neither did the Steelers. So, at the end of the day, this is where it was going to go. It was either go to Pittsburgh or retire. So, it is what it is. I'm just happy I don't have to talk about it anymore. Now, Tyler, moving into another subject that happened just this morning, we have a big-time release.
Yes, we do.
The Green Bay Packers have officially moved on from two-time Pro Bowl corner Jaire Alexander. He was released this morning, and I'm sure he will garner some interest. He's still only 28 years old, but there are definitely a lot of injury concerns when it comes to Mr. Alexander.
I can quote the Packers GM for a moment. He said, "We already are used to playing without him." So they're not worried about losing him.
That is a fair statement because they are very used to playing without him.
Yeah, that is a very valid statement.
I mean, if you just look at, and like we said, your best ability is availability, and unfortunately for Jaire Alexander, he has only played at least, I'll just go down to the nitty of the gritty. He has only played at least 8 games one time in the past 4 years.
Yeah, that's sad.
So 2018-2019 was his rookie year. He played 13 games that year. Solid start to his career. Mm-hmm. Then he played 16 the next year. And then in 2020-2021 he played 15. And that is where the wheels fall off. The following season in 2021-22, he only played 4 games. Then he did return to have a healthy 2022-2023 year to where he had played 16 games and had a career-high 5 interceptions. But over the past 2 years, he has only played a combined 14 games, 7 in each. This past year, though, through 7 games, he was off to a good start. He had 2 interceptions. So he was playing. And he also had 7 passes defended.
He had a solid few games after week 1. I think Jaire Alexander's defining moment from last year was when he was trying to talk trash to A.J. Brown and proceeded to get burnt by A.J. Brown.
He also had a pick in that game.
He got lucky.
Okay. So, it'll be very interesting. I'm sure Alexander's going to have a market. I mean, he's a 28-year-old former 2-time Pro Bowl corner.
A team will take a shot on him as their second cornerback. Someone that they don't need to rely on as much.
Bold of you to assume there are not teams that need corner help.
Because they do, but I don't trust. I'm not paying him as a number 1 corner. Because I don't know if I'm going to get a return on that.
Okay, but here's the other thing. What is the top corner on the trade market right now?
trade market, Jalen Ramsey.
Are you paying that $20 million cap hit?
If the team needs it and they got it,
I can tell you, there's a lot of teams that are not going to want to pay that cap hit. They would rather give Alexander a 1-year deal, give him like a heavy incentive, $8 million, and call it a day. There are a lot of teams out there that I know they will not want to pay Jalen Ramsey's humongous cap hit.
Of course, there's going to be a lot of teams, but those teams that would rather pay the lower price for Jaire Alexander, those are the teams that aren't going to be competing for the playoffs.
Fair enough point. But again, what teams really would be looking at Jaire Alexander that weren't contenders?
That weren't contenders?
So,
yeah, that's tough.
Well, while we're here, why don't let's talk about that real quick. What are some possible destinations for Jaire Alexander?
Some landing spots that I like are 1, Kansas City. Now there's a contender who has a starting cornerback, but outside of that, they got nothing. Nothing at all. So that would be the perfect spot to put Jaire Alexander in, the cornerback 2 spot. Less is being asked of him. Maybe it can help him stay healthier in the long run. And that's actually a good cornerback tandem. What's up, Carol?
What's up, Carol? All right, so you have KC. Do you want to just bounce off ideas here and go one at a time?
What's your team?
A team that I realistically could see Alexander landing on is easily the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are always looking for a defensive back that they can pry from somewhere else and turn them back into an all-pro for a year and then get that last little bit of good football out of them. Not to mention, it's a pretty solid place to land if you're Jaire Alexander. You have a dominant young safety duo in Malachi Stark and Kyle Hamilton.
Oh, yeah.
And you still have Marlon Humphrey there. So you have a pretty solid secondary already. You add Alexander to that. He's not going to be asked to do much. He goes probably into that cornerback 2 role, like you said.
Yep.
I like that fit there.
That's a good fit, too. I like that. And again, going to a contender. I don't see him going to a team that isn't a contender.
Okay.
Because I feel like he'll take a pay cut to go play for a team that's going to contend for the playoffs, possibly Super Bowl.
Well, I mean, the guy's missed how many games over the past 4 years? There ain't really much different there. He'll have a choice to not take a pay cut.
Yeah, exactly. But, I think he would be fine at this point in his career with stepping back to a cornerback 2 role.
I think that's right where he's...
If he's healthy, he could be the best cornerback 2 in the league.
Oh, yeah, because I think that's the problem that people don't understand. When he is healthy, Jaire Alexander is one of the top 5 best defensive backs in football.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is he just can't stay healthy. That's the problem.
Yep.
There's no questioning his talent. It's just the guy cannot stay out of the medical tent.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you have any other potential landing spots for Mr. Alexander?
Another one that I like is the Los Angeles Rams. Now, granted, I want to say this first. I think the Rams, I don't know what their cap scenario is looking like. I feel like they said that they would like to have Jalen Ramsey back on the team.
Oh,
I feel like they're in the trade market for him. They're actively looking at him. I don't know if it's going to work out, though, with the money. But for that young defense that they have, We talked about their secondary. It doesn't write home at all. Adding in a proven veteran like Jalen Ramsey would be huge for them. But if they couldn't, now, yeah, Clint, I think a lot of people would say that. But you got to put the underline underneath healthy, because Jalen Ramsey's been a lot healthier over his career than Jaire Alexander, a lot more reliable. So if we're just talking about you're getting a healthy Alexander, okay, yeah, definitely go ahead and get him. And yeah, I get that. He's getting up there in age too. You know, everyone hits their peak, they start to decline. But like I said again, in terms of reliability, Ramsey would be a better fit. Now, the $20 million price tag definitely makes you double think all of that. Because if the price tag wasn't so high, I don't think the Rams would have hesitated. But that's definitely something to take into consideration. You don't want to tie up a lot of money, especially with a young defense. You want to try to focus on the future, not put out all that money for what is he, close to his 30s, if not already in his 30s, Jalen Ramsey?
Ramsey's definitely in his 30s by now.
He is 30. Look at that. Perfect. So, honestly, whoever they got, either or, if they were able to get Ramsey or if they did go with Jaire Alexander, it'd be probably an improvement for them. I don't see it hurting them at all.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Now, thank you very much. You stole my answer. I was going to say the Rams as well, so.
You're welcome.
You know, I'm going to be that guy. I think that the reigning champs may be involved in this too.
Oh, really?
I have no issue with the Eagles taking a look at Alexander. Because just think of this, okay? He's going to come here. He don't got to be the number one corner. We got that locked up already. And in necessarily thinking about it, the Eagles don't necessarily need Jaire Alexander. You know, they really like Keely Ringo. They really want to see Keely Ringo play this year. They brought in Adoree Jackson in free agency on a low cap hit, though.
Yeah.
They have Eli Ricks, who they also like. And also, looking at the term from what Vic Fangio was saying, Cooper DeJean going to be moving around this year, it sounds like.
I saw that, yep.
So, personally, if I could add Jaire Alexander to that secondary, because here's the thing, it ain't going to hurt you, because guess what? Say you do sign him and something happened. You still got all the depth. You still got Jackson, Ricks, Ringo.
What difference is he than Avonte Maddox?
Oh, I think there's a very
Except
big
for a better
between...
player, but I'm talking. Yeah. I meant in terms of availability wise.
Because one guy's not an undersized slot corner.
Well, I mean, they're both available. They were both available about the same amount of games.
Okay, that's fine.
But I'm saying that's fine. We're already used to it. Just like how the Packers are used to playing.
No, because you're literally you are comparing a guy that is a two-time Pro Bowler to a fifth-round pick who could barely, when he was healthy, wasn't that good.
Hold on. When he was healthy, he was one of the top slot corners in the league.
When? 3 years ago?
Yeah, 3 years ago.
I'm talking right now.
Well, yeah.
I'm not talking 3 years ago. Flint says, what about the Vikings for Alexander? That could make some sense. That would be, take Aaron Jones one offseason, take Alexander the next. Oh, my God. No, the Vikings should have signed Aaron Rodgers.
And traded for Devontae Adams.
No, but again, that's what I was saying. Is it doesn't hurt for the Eagles to look into it because it's not going to hurt them. If they sign him and something happens, you still got guys that can play on the outside. And if he comes here and stays healthy, you're going to get banged for your buck.
Yeah, true.
Put him on the opposite side of Quinyon with Cooper DeJean moving all over the place. I'm not opposed to looking into it. I also wouldn't mind the Eagles looked at Jermaine Pratt because we don't know who's starting next to Zach Bond on opening day. Because guess what? Jahad Campbell ain't going to practice till August.
Yeah, that's kind of pushing it close. And I mean, you look at how Fangio didn't rush DeJean last year. DeJean came back, what was it, week 4? Week 5?
Yeah.
He didn't rush him back. He gave him time. So maybe he tries to do the same thing as that. You know, you're going to be down 2 of your possible starters next to Bond to start the season. Or at least one's not going to really be in football-ready mode. I wouldn't mind him looking at Jermaine Pratt. Not at all. Like you said, a very underrated middle linebacker in the league.
Yeah.
In a league where when we had this conversation, I believe it was last week about middle linebackers, it's really hard to name like 5 standout ones.
Yeah. But we named that 5 last week. I think Jermaine Pratt would have been right around like the next 3 guys we would have named. We went from 5 to 10.
Oh, yeah.
So there's still a lot of players out there for the Eagles to look at defensively. Alexander could be one. Of course, Justin Simmons, Jermaine Pratt. Eagles may get involved in what if the Eagles got involved in the Trey Hendrickson trade idea?
I still am all on board of that. If they can make it happen, do it.
It's over.
You're not going to get any complaints from me. You can make it happen, Howie Roseman, do it. Don't even hesitate.
You've already got a top 3 defensive tackle in the league, and he's only been in the league for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You have Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt that are going to be a year better.
Yep.
You've got one of the best interior defensive lines in football with Carter, Davis, Ajomo, Ty Robinson, etc. Could you imagine what you would do to your team if you added a guy that is coming off 2 years where he has had a combined 34 and a half freaking sacks?
Oh, man.
Do you add that to Zach Bowen and those and the middle linebackers that, yes, they are banged up, but if they're healthy, they could play? And to this secondary, which is just getting younger and faster and better?
Yep. Well,
that's unfair.
Mm-hmm.
If Trey Hendrickson was traded to the Eagles this offseason, before the season starts, I think there's a chance of number 3. I think number 3 is a very big possibility.
Oh, man.
I still think it is.
Of course it is. I mean,
it's just,
when you don't have a whole lot of roster turnover after winning a Super Bowl, yeah. We lost a few pieces, but we've made some good strides to replace those. They didn't get worse. They still got the core intact. Aside from the changeover of offensive coordinator, you got the coaching staff intact. So I don't see a reason why they couldn't.
Eagles are still sitting around like 30-something million in cap space, though.
Justin Simmons. You know what? Justin Simmons and Trey Hendrickson, just because.
What about Justin Simmons and Jaire Alexander?
And Trey Hendrickson?
Okay, relax, Madden. This is not Madden, okay?
No, I'm just turning into Sam every Sixers offseason when he wants every single person on the market.
Who are these Sixers you speak of?
The ones that you used to like.
I am a Delaware 87ers fan.
Who?
That used to be a
Is that the G League team? Is that
back in a long time.
Oh, God.
I don't know who these Sixers are you speak of, but they are not my team.
Yeah, okay. All right, buddy. All right. Okay.
But, no, there's still plenty of defensive players that are going to be available and are going to be moved within the next few months before the season starts. Speaking of offseason and moves, we do have a division we want to talk about tonight.
We do.
We're going to talk some AFC South. This is probably a shorter episode, We've been talking about Jaire Alexander and Aaron Rodgers through most of it, but let's talk a little bit about the AFC South. Talk about a division that is a literal crapshoot.
Yep.
Tyler, who have the Houston Texans done enough to repeat as champs of the South?
The AFC South. Boy, how I did not look forward to discussing this.
You're the one that picked it.
Where do we start? We had to get it over at some point. Where do we start?
Let's start in Houston.
Oh, I know that. Which part of Houston do I want to start with?
Well, they just added Nick Chubb today.
They did add Nick Chubb today, which does help their chances. But they're the clear-cut favorite. There is no way that you can slice it and dice it that would make me think that there's another team that has a shot. The Colts wiped them off the face of the board. Sorry, Colts fans. It's not your year. The Titans, there's going to be some work to do with getting Cam Ward up to speed. The Titans are not going to enjoy what the Washington Commanders did with drafting Jaden Daniels. That's not going to happen. Jaden Daniels, special player, also had an insane coaching staff. So I don't even want to bring up the Jaguars because I don't know what they're doing either. I'll say it once, I'll say it again. Trevor Lawrence, just about as good as Daniel Jones.
Who may be a starter in that division, too.
Yeah, go figure. We'll really get some good comparisons then. They could play each other twice a year. Oh, man. Can't wait.
God.
So,
God.
The Texans. Let's start there. Obviously, I think both of our favorites to win this division. No doubt in my mind that they can repeat as division winners. What is up with these South conferences in the AFC and NFC? I feel like they're the only two conferences where you can have the division winner be at like 500 or close to 500, and they'll still make it in.
They don't like warm weather. No one likes warm weather, apparently.
I guess not. So, Texans are coming in. CJ Stroud, year 3. Hopefully the little sophomore slump is behind him.
Which I don't believe was his fault.
I don't believe it was his fault either. Had a lot of revolving doors at wide receiver because so many people got injured. Now you got, to pair with Joe Mixon, you have Nick Chubb, who someone said earlier in the comments is probably one of the top running back tandems. If we can get at least at this point in his career, playing behind Joe Mixon, all you need is about 80% of Nick Chubb, and that's going to be a deadly duo.
Oh, I think.
Not to mention, you still got Dameon Pierce just hanging around as your running back. Yeah. I don't know if they're going to try to move him at all. Because, I feel like Pierce was he more of their power back?
I guess you could call him that. Mixon kind of fills that role too, as does Chubb. So,
well, Chubb definitely now. Now Mixon's kind of your finesse guy.
Clint's comment is great. Houston should repeat it unless Stroud gets injured again. It's like picking the last ugly girl out of ugly girls. Oh my God.
That perfectly sums up the AFC South and the NFC South.
Essentially,
Thank you, Clint. But the Texans, if they're healthy at wide receiver, They what did they do at wide receiver? They got Nico Collins still got Tank Dell. Your 1-2 punch, right?
Tank Dell is not playing this year, buddy.
He's gonna miss the whole year.
Yeah.
Oh, he's missing.
That knee injury was bad.
Oh, I didn't know he was missing the entire year. Okay.
Yep.
Well, good thing for them. Not only did they draft one Iowa State wide receiver, this is how baffled I am. They drafted two. They decided to double down in the second and third round on the wide receiving duo out of Iowa State. Now, I think they're pretty solid. It'll be interesting to see how they team up over there with Nico Collins, Christian Kirk. Aside from that, they don't. They got John Mechie. Mechie's been kind of a disappointment so far in his NFL career.
He's just going down the depth chart at this point.
Pretty much, yeah. But they definitely got some more weapons. They are trying to avoid what happened last year where everybody got hurt. All the receivers.
Yeah.
When they didn't have anybody left. Nobody at all. So, honestly, it could be very interesting. You got Nico Collins on the outside at 6'4". The one kid they drafted in the second round, Jaden Higgins, 6'4" as well. And then the other kid that they drafted in the third round, 5'11", probably your slot receiver. I mean, they're going to have chemistry because they played together at Iowa State. If they can all get on the same page, this offense could look pretty damn good. Not to mention Dalton Schultz, a very underrated tight end, very reliable. And then you got the offensive line. Sam, I don't have anything good to say about the offensive line.
That offensive line last year was god-awful. And there's a lot of moving parts. As we know, Shaq Mason, gone. Kenyon Green, gone. Laramie Tunsil, gone.
Dare I say they got worse?
Well, they signed Cam Robinson to take over one tackle spot. They signed Trent Brown, I guess, to take over the other. It sounds like Titus Howard's moving to guard.
Yeah, it does sound like that, to left guard. They drafted that kid, Aaron Rodgers, out of Minnesota in the second round.
He'll probably get Trent Brown is probably just a placeholder until he's ready to play more.
Yeah, I think so.
And then he'll probably get put into guard. They also still have Juice Scruggs and Jared Patterson, and they signed Lincoln Tomlinson.
They have Blake Fisher higher on the depth chart than Trent Brown currently. Now, it's still early. They haven't went into training camp yet. So, things are going to change, but they currently have him as the right tackle starter.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Zolt said the Texans' O-line was bad last year, and they went out of their way to make it worse.
Thank you, Zolt. My thoughts exactly. They found a way to... They did worse than the Bengals. At least I don't think the Bengals
would love to have Cam Robinson on their team. I think the Bengals would love to have a Cam Robinson sitting somewhere on their team. Because, newsflash, the Bengals' offensive line stinks. I'm not really sure what the Texans are doing either, but yeah, I don't know. I have no words for some of this stuff.
But even with the bad O-line, still my favorite to win this division by far.
Yeah. Now, I guess the team we can move on to talking about after this is the Colts, because we brought them up already once. And unfortunately for the Colts, they're not that bad. They had 3 wide receivers last year reach the 800-yard mark. and Pierce, Pittman, and Downs. They still have one of the better offensive lines in football. I wouldn't say it's top tier, but it's middle of the pack. It's not god-awful. They have a defense that some weeks can play really good football. And in my opinion, they still just drafted a transcendent talent, which is Tyler Warren.
Yes.
Clint, I've said this about C.J. Gardner-Johnson 1,000 times. He is going on his fourth team in 4 seasons.
Yep.
This is why.
I think CJ's more hurt that people don't care more that he's gone. I think that's what hurts him the most.
Probably
I guess
does.
he was expecting to get one of them big veteran send-offs like we did for Darius Slay. I'm sorry, you played here 2 years, buddy. Non-concurrent. What do you want? You want some dollar store flowers?
Jeez, Tyler.
No, because he always wants attention. That's the way he's been.
So I can't stand him. He's a me guy. And I really don't care if someone ever sees this, but he's a me guy. So Clint says that Anthony Richardson is the biggest X factor for the Colts. Honestly?
An X factor? They need to put him on X Factor.
Oh, God. No, they don't. I legitimately think that we are having... I really think there's a shot Daniel Jones is the starter week 1.
There is a good chance. Because how bad we all know Daniel Jones is, he still had a better NFL career than Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, and maybe is there? I'm not comparing the two, but is there a shot Shane Steichen can get something out of Daniel Jones that the Giants couldn't? I mean, Steichen he's familiar with his mobile quarterbacks when he had Jalen.
Yeah. Is
there a chance that Daniel Jones may be a better fit for the Colts than Anthony Richardson?
So let me run something by you real quick. So,
okay.
How many games did he play last year? So last year, Daniel Jones played in 10 games. Anthony Richardson played in 11 games.
Okay.
Their stat lines: Anthony Richardson, 1,800 passing yards, 8 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Daniel Jones in one less game, 2,000 passing yards, 8 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Both bad, but still one better.
Yeah. And again, I think there's a shot that because, he got to sit behind in Minnesota late last year after the Giants got rid of him. And I think that Daniel Jones, look, I know we like to make the jokes about Daniel Jones, but guess what? We've made jokes about a lot of guys. And when they went to the right position,
Geno Smith,
they turned it around.
Sam Darnold.
So, exactly. So, could Shane Steichen actually... Because here's the thing. Anthony Richardson was drafted solely on potential.
Yes.
He had 12 career starts, and the Colts said, that's our guy. Well, you may want to look for some experience next time. He went to the combine. Oh, he was threw a great deep ball. He threw all this good stuff. But he never showed you. Then what happened last year? He was taking himself out of games because he was tired. Well, you're in the wrong sport for that, buddy. I think there's a legitimate shot that Daniel Jones may be the better fit at quarterback for the Colts than Anthony Richardson. Because he actually wants to use his legs and his mobility. And maybe if the Colts realize that, because look, the Colts don't have a true number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah. I mean, Pittman's borderline. He's a poor man's 1 or a really good number 2.
Well, he's got that chronic back issue, too, so...
Yeah, that doesn't help.
And Pierce and Downs are solid. They're not bad, but I think with the way Daniel Jones can utilize his legs in an offense, maybe Shane Steichen could get something out of him, and maybe that would put the Colts in a better shot. And I mean, when a quarterback's trying to find himself again and improve his career, his best friend could be a tight end. Well, the Colts just drafted a pretty damn good one.
They did.
Not to mention as well, this is easily the best offensive line Daniel Jones will ever have played behind with the Colts. And they got a pretty good run game, too. Jonathan Taylor's still a very good running back, so...
And now they also have Khalil Herbert.
Yeah, who's a viable backup. I think if the Colts... And the other problem is that Richardson hurt his shoulder. He has a shoulder injury right now.
Yeah, so he's banged up already.
So, yeah, he's already behind Daniel Jones. I think if the Colts gave Daniel Jones a shot, he may be a better fit for their offense than Anthony Richardson. And it's not saying much at this point because all we know is what we saw with the Giants. But, again, the Giants are a clown show. So, exactly, they're the Giants. So, I think the Colts may want to take a realistic shot and look at seeing if Daniel Jones may be a better fit. I think it's a possibility.
I think it's a possibility, too. I just don't trust anything about Anthony Richardson anymore.
Neither do I. I don't trust his durability. I don't trust his mentality.
No, his work ethic.
I can't trust.
Nope.
I drafted you in the top 12. You're tired and you're taking yourself out of games. We can't do that here. Clint said, I said coming out of the draft that Anthony Richardson was a combine warrior. He wasn't good at all. No, he wasn't. And then Zolt said, Daniel Jones is right where he belongs. As a number 2 who can be a placeholder while you wait for something better. Yeah, Zolt, and I agree. And that is what he is right now, is a placeholder that is better than Anthony Richardson.
Yeah. So, honestly, Daniel Jones should be the number 1 playing as a placeholder for a future quarterback. Because we can both agree, everyone can agree, they do not have a future franchise quarterback on this roster. It's not Richardson, and it's not going to be a resurgence of Daniel Jones.
Yeah, and Clint's saying that he's never seen a quarterback never throw to his number 1 as much as Richardson never. And that's the problem, Clint. He doesn't know how to read a defense. The guy had like 10 career starts in college. He wasn't polished enough to be taken that high in the draft.
Yep. But he had the deep ball.
Oh, he can throw the ball deep downfield.
Where'd that get you?
Yeah, nowhere. All right, let's move on to the Titans, because you were talking about Cam Ward a little bit earlier.
So this one, the Titans are my second favorite.
Okay.
In this division. It hurts me to say, because I really feel like I could just end up, eating shit for this.
Okay.
Because Cam Ward was a great college quarterback.
Yeah.
He willed Miami to a lot of wins, some wins that they shouldn't have had. But is he going to be good enough year 1 to get them to that second place finish in the AFC South? Let's look at some weapons he's got around him. Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears at running back. Solid tandem. Yeah, Calvin Ridley, Tyler Lockett, all reliable. And dare I even say Traylon Burks' his name?
No, you shall not.
I'm just going to say Van Jefferson. I feel like that's a more realistic wide receiver 3.
They also drafted Gunnar Helm out of Texas.
They did. They drafted Gunnar Helm. They still have who is still their starter, Okonkwo. He had almost 500 yards receiving last year. Not too bad. Their offensive line, it's not terrible. They brought in Zeitler. They got Jason Latham.
They signed Dan Moore. They have Lloyd Cushenberry, and they also have Skordowski.
Yeah. So they do have a very, very solid offensive line. Hello, Houston Texans. This is how you do it. So then you come over, defensive side of the ball. You got Jeffrey Simmons, Jerry Sneed.
Call the Jerry Sneed all of a sudden.
He's good, but it's what I'm looking at after that. I don't see much. I do not see much at all.
Amani Hooker's a really good safety.
Yeah, Hooker, he's a solid safety. He had 5 interceptions last year.
Exactly.
But outside of that,
they signed Xavier Woods in free agency.
Xavier Woods with the Panthers last year. Yeah, 6 pass deflections, 3 interceptions. So got some guys that could take the ball away. They're solid at the pass rush. Man, I'm not seeing it.
Well, they did bring in Draymond Jones. He had 4 sacks last year. Hopefully, he'll be able to help. Adrian Key last year had 6.5.
Yeah.
They did draft the kid Oladejo out of UCLA, who is a lot of teams were high on him in the draft. So they did bring in some help.
Oluwafemi Oladejo. Yeah, I think he'll probably get a lot of playing time early on. They're going to need it because they got some solid pass rushers, but nobody that's screaming, "I'm the star."
Well, no, that's Jeffrey Simmons. It's basically all built around him.
But now, I get it. He is a defensive tackle, but he only 5 sacks last year, which I know there's a lot more that goes into being a defensive tackle than the sacks. So I'm not holding that against him. But if he's going to be, dominating in the middle, you need some guys on the outside to help him out.
Yeah, like if you look at, again, it's like the Rams or the Eagles. Aaron Donald, Jalen Carter. They may have not had high sack numbers some years. Like Jalen Carter only had 4.5 last year, but you saw the presence that he had for everyone else to do their job. I will continue to say this until I'm proven wrong. Jalen Carter got Milton Williams paid this offseason.
He did. And Josh Sweat.
He got
both.
And Clint said people forget the Titans' defense was number 2 in yards allowed per game last year.
Were they really?
Yeah, they had a solid team last year. It's just Will Levis stunk.
Yeah, so being able to hopefully move the ball now, you don't have a stale quarterback that likes eating jars of mayonnaise before each game.
Please stop. No,
wasn't it he put some mayo in his coffee?
Yes.
Disgusting.
Sick Tennessee shit down there. What are you doing down there in Knoxville? Good Lord. No wonder freaking Amaleva wanted to leave. Holy crap. Putting mayonnaise and coffee down there. Jesus. So Clint said, I believe if Cam Ward can make an impact how Jaden Daniels did in his rookie year, the Titans can win that division. Oh, Clint, there's no doubt the Titans will be a player in this division.
If he can make that impact. But like I said earlier, I don't think he's definitely a talented player, and he brings a lot of pop. I don't think he's as polished right out the gate that Jaden Daniels was. And I go back to the coaching situation. Jaden Daniels had the perfect coaching staff around him.
Fair point, but I like the Titans head coach, Callahan. I like him.
I do too. I think this team can be good enough to finish second.
I agree. Personally, I think the Titans are already kind of ahead of the curve with Cam Ward. Like, he needs a wide receiver number 1. Okay, they have Calvin Ridley. Not the greatest wide. He's not like a top 10 wide receiver, but he's capable of being a wide receiver 1. He's done it before. They have a solid run game. They've built up a very good offensive line. I think the Titans have all the makings to have Cam Ward succeed in year one.
Oh, yeah, I think he'll succeed.
And now let's move over to the Jags. The last team on our list, the Jags.
Do we have to?
Unfortunately, we do.
The Jags.
Who's
their head coach now?
Liam Cohen.
Ah, yes, Liam Cohen. The Mr. Duval.
Oh my God, that was so corny.
That was the Jags. Let's talk about the Jags. So you got Daniel Jones, Trevor Lawrence starting at quarterback.
Yep.
Still have Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby. Tank Bigsby needs to be the clear-cut running back one next year.
Agreed.
I cannot see them try to force Etienne to be the number one running back again. It just does not work. And I hope they understand that. Brian Thomas, great wide receiver already. Excited to see what he does year two. You bring in Travis Hunter to put next to him. And then it doesn't hurt that you got De'Ami Brown to just throw into your slot role. Or outside. I don't know. What does Hunter play? Is he more of a slot wide receiver? Or outside?
I don't know. Good luck, because I've been watching some tape from OTAs. It doesn't look pretty.
Yeah, I've seen some tape, yep. I think he's looking like a better corner.
I guess nobody told Travis Hunter that the NFL is not just a bunch of go routes against Pac-12 teams.
Yep, you're a long way from Buffalo. Not Buffalo. Colorado. Buffaloes.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're on from the Buffaloes. You're good. But no, I think if he actually is going to play wide receiver mostly, him and Thomas could be a lethal duo.
Because if you think about it, right, what are teams going to be game planning for? The guy who almost had 1,300 yards, third in the league last year, 10 touchdowns. Are you going to be game planning for him? Or are you going to game plan for the unicorn, Travis Hunter? Because that can cause some matchup nightmares there. If you focus too much on Brian Thomas, Travis Hunter might carve teams up. But if they focus too much on Hunter, Thomas is going to have like $130 every game.
They also signed De'Ami Brown, too.
Yeah, De'Ami Brown is like I was saying, a very solid addition. That's why I don't know if Hunter is more on the outside or in the slot guy. I think De'Ami Brown played more in the slot in Washington, didn't he?
That's a good question.
I don't remember. He got locked down when we played him, so I couldn't tell you.
There's only one man that can answer that.
Zol.
Anthony!
Oh, Anthony? I thought you meant Zol, because didn't De'Ami Brown kill the Lions?
Why do you gotta do that?
So Zol or Anthony, if you could answer that question, does De'Ami Brown play out of the slot more or the outside?
Why must you do these things?
I think either one could answer that for us.
I will say Jacksonville actually has a solid defensive unit.
Defense, yes.
I mean, you look at the defensive line, they have Eric Armstead, they have Josh Allen, they signed Emmanuel Ogbah. That's hilarious. They still have Trayvon Walker.
Yep.
They still have Devin Lloyd, even though they declined his fifth-year option, but he's still on the team last time I checked.
Yep.
And in their secondary, still have Tyson Campbell. I mean, yes, you could say Travis Hunter as well. They signed Jordan Lewis in the offseason. They have Darnell Savage. They've got some solid players still in their secondary. They're not a terrible team on paper. They have a decently talented roster. They just have to put it together.
This is my team finishing in third. because I don't know if they're going to be able to put it together, and I don't know how good Trevor Lawrence is going to be.
And that's the point where I'm at with this. All of the Jags' success hinders on the shoulders of Trevor Lawrence because you were the best quarterback prospect, we were told, since Andrew Luck. You were supposed to be the quote-unquote the next chosen one of the NFL. Now, granted, that probably a lot of that went out the window when you went to Jacksonville because nothing ever succeeds there. But and you have managed to not even have a deep enough play. The deepest playoff run by a Jacksonville quarterback is Blake freaking Bortles still. Blake freaking Bortles. Now, granted, they had that ridiculous defense that we call Saxonville. I get that, but for Trevor Lawrence, you have to be that guy. You're supposed to be that guy.
Yep.
So all the pressure is on Trevor Lawrence this year. He has to perform, or the Jets may be questioning some things next year.
Agreed.
But let's wrap this up, Tyler. If we had to talk about this right now on, June 9th, how do we think these standings would turn out?
I would have Houston winning the division by quite a few games. I'd probably put them at about I'd give Houston 11 wins.
Ooh. Okay.
I think the Titans could end at like 8 or 9. Then I go down to the Jags. I think the Jags will be around like 7 or 8. Unless if Trevor Lawrence just has like an insanely good year and finally gets it going. And then the team that's the biggest question mark is the Colts. I see the Colts maybe being like a 4 to 5 win team this year. I think, Daniel Jones will probably win the starting job. I don't see a career resurgence coming for him because I just don't see anything there. The other guys that we talked about, like the Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, I actually saw flashes at certain times from those players. It was just they were stuck on the Jets and couldn't get a chance outside of that to really get going.
I think if you kind of adapt to Daniel Jones, kind of like what the Eagles did with Jalen Hurts and commit to a run-first offense and limit his chances to make mistakes, they could be in a good position. And you don't need to you don't have to run Jonathan Taylor into the ground. You can use Daniel Jones' legs too. He can run the football too.
Yeah,
so
very true.
That's where I'm at with the Colts.
Okay.
So you have all right, so wait, hold on. So you have what? You had Texans?
I have Texans, Titans, Jags, Colts.
Okay. Mine, I'll go Texans 1. I have them winning 10 games and winning the division. I don't think any of these teams in this division are better than 10 wins.
Yeah, I agree.
I have Jacksonville finishing second. I think Trevor Lawrence I think Liam Cohen, he was a part of that coaching staff that helped redefine Baker Mayfield's career. So I think Liam Cohen and the Jags can really do some good for Trevor Lawrence this year. If Travis Hunter is anywhere near the receiver he was in college, you add that to Brian Thomas, you could have a really, really lethal wide receiver duo there. And they also have a defense that isn't that bad talent-wise. So,
okay, that's fair.
I'll have Tennessee finishing third. I think Cam Ward shows flashes, but I don't think it's going to be the Jaden Daniels thing that Titan fans want to see. Yeah. So, I think they still have some work to do, but I have them finishing third. Plus, it's really hard to win this league with a rookie quarterback, no matter who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll have the Colts going last because again, I don't know. To bank on a Daniel Jones career resurgence or to bank on Anthony Richardson at all, that's a concern to begin with. So that's how I have the AFC South turning out. Another good episode tonight.
Yeah, the South wasn't, I guess, as bad as I thought it was going to be to talk about. They got some potential. Like a team like the Titans finishing in last in the division last year, I think they're going to have a big turnaround this year. Texans, maybe they'll definitely win the division again. Maybe this year they'll actually be that contender team and actually, put up a fight in the playoffs. Hopefully we can get that back to that.
Good luck with that.
No, you're not feeling that one?
No, not at all.
That's a no-go. Okay. All right, well, I tried to give him credit. I tried. No credit. Sorry.
Anything else you want to bring up, Tyler, before we call it a night?
That's about it for me.
All righty then. Well, all right, guys. So before we get out of here tonight, we do want to tell you something. As everyone sees, tonight was episode number 49 of 609 Sports Talk since we relaunched back last August. Next week, we hit the big 50. We hit 50 episodes since coming back. And just to keep you guys up to it, we have a very important announcement for next week's show. So, guys, stay tuned for that, and we will let you all know what it is next Monday. So, guys, thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Shout out to Georgie, Clint, Zolt, Carol, Pitch Grid Podcast. All of them showed up in the comments tonight. Thank you guys all for joining us tonight. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will see you guys next week. Same time, same place. So, guys, have a safe rest of your week, and we'll see you next time. For Tyler Adams, I'm Sam Nelson. Good night, everybody.